I wanted to share another core lesson I've learned in 2024, which is an hour of reflection saves a decade of regret. So I recently had a conversation with my mentor at Mount Macedon, which is this mountain near where I live. And it really stuck with me because he used to coach med students, and I'm currently a med student. And he would often ask med students why they picked med. And oftentimes, if not all the time, after 5 minutes of just questioning why, the med students couldn't provide substantial responses. And the reason I want to share this is because it's the same thing that happened with me when he asked me why I want to do med. Like after just a few basic, like why do you want to do this? Why do you believe in that? Like why do you want to help people? Things like that. I couldn't give him like a very strong answer. And it was scary to think that like some people like myself were planning to dedicate like 10 plus years to a career where we couldn't even defend the choice like of going down this career for 5 minutes, which is 1/1 millionth of that time. And so this really got me thinking, like, what exactly did I want to do with my life? And I genuinely felt lost and without like a clear purpose. And so it made me also realize that if someone can just dismantle your beliefs with just a few questions, it means two things. Like either you haven't done enough reflection on why you want to do a certain path, which in that case you're doing yourself an injustice, or second, the path is just not cut out for you. And so regardless of which answer is, they're both bad. And so the only way out of that was to constantly reflect and ask myself why. And this is something that I haven't like done because I always thought, reflection is just a waste of time. Like, who wants to do that? But when I was introduced to this reflection framework, something called COLBS, this really like shifted my perspective because I started asking why more and more. And obviously you have to apply that with action. You can't just reflect, you actually have to apply it in the real world and get more information and then reflect on that, which is essentially what COLBS describes. And again, I'll just put an image on that on the screen. But it made me really realize I needed to ask why for everything I was doing. And so when I didn't feel like I had a strong sense of purpose, I needed to find out what that purpose is. I needed to find out why. And my mentor recommended me a very good book called Great at Work. And this really allowed me to really visualize my purpose. And so now I'll share with you a bunch of prompts from like the ChatGPT summary, which allowed me to really gain clarity over what I wanted to do and what I wanted to get out of my life. So I'll go through those prompts right now. And these prompts have really like just allowed me to gain a bit more clarity with it because these are questions that I typically don't necessarily ask myself all the time. And yeah, it's just obviously good to think about these. So when I think about like what aspects of my work or life give me energy or like fulfillment, it's definitely like education. And I believe I mentioned this during our interview, like at the start, because the thing is like, I remember like back in like high school, I didn't really enjoy like the subjects like maths that much, but I just enjoyed like teaching my classmates. So there was also something like intrinsic about like teaching others that always brought me joy. And like we can like trace it back to like my childhood when it's like, I've seen the impact of good teachers, bad teachers, and the power that a good teacher can have, and also like the damage a bad teacher can have as well. I believe I've told the story where like teachers told me like at a very young age that you're not going to get good grades, and that really shattered my confidence. And at the time, I just used that as hate to like channel the hate and just prove them wrong essentially, and which I touch on a later point is not a very sustainable strategy. And so I kind of see the importance of having like right educators to guide you in the right path. Now, at the same time, educating is one area, but also like learning is like the other side of the coin, which I'm also quite interested about because as the first point mentioned, there's so much I don't know. And I think that's something that truly excites me because I realize, hey, I don't know everything. And every day there's going to be new things I learn, which I think brings me a lot of like energy, knowing that there's that to look forward to. And that kind of aligns with why I kind of went down the YouTube path, because it's just a way to amplify like the message, which in this case is education. So that's like a key thought that I've had here. The rest of these like questions kind of ask about like the priority and just trying to align like everything in your life with your purpose, which I think is super important, because one of the like challenges in med school was that I didn't like really care about it. And my girlfriend Jess pointed it out as well. Like she said to me that you're just doing med simply to pass, whereas people are doing med because they're truly passionate about the field. And I mean, that hit home. Like, I mean, yeah, that's true. And as much as, I want to deny it, it's not like a very, sexy answer, it's kind of like the truth. And so that got me thinking, how do I design a life with everything aligned to my purpose? And I do think the gap year is a massive stepping stone towards that, because now I'm kind of like picking the opportunities that I'm doing, and I'm not like going down a career that others or society has like picked out for me. So that's kind of like on the macro level, how I'm aligning my life to my purpose. So that kind of addresses like these couple of questions here. But in terms of like the very micro decisions, it kind of links with the later points I will mention, which is a focus on learning. I think that's a key thing. Any like task that involves me just learning either how to learn or learning about like things related to YouTube, or like just soft skills, communication, like skills related to like work, I think is very just motivating. And having like those types of work in my day is very energizing, because again, it aligns with my overall purpose. And so that's why I think that's like super important. So I think this question is, a great way just to help me like align my life with my purpose. And then, yeah, aligning a purpose with results. I think like I need to like divorce the idea of me aligning like my purpose with like numbers. I think sure that's a nice like indicator, but I do think when I obsess too much about like numbers, like if how many subscribers or how many views, if I'm not getting enough views, that means I didn't do a great job with teaching. Like I don't think that's the right way to go about it. Like obviously it's a good indicator, but I do think the more important thing here is almost like a qualitative assessment, like just asking feedback from like Arnav, yourself, Justin, or like friends, family, like how they feel about me improving in this area, and if they feel like the results showing up, and also like my own personal like belief in it, because ultimately there's a lot of marginal gains, and not everything can be measured with either a feeling or a number, and a lot of it is just trusting the process and just seeing like gradually over a long enough time span that you're getting these results. And so I do think this is very important, but also I have to be careful how I link purpose with results. And then yeah, obviously like practical exercises to like discover your purpose and just amplify that. And so after asking myself all those questions, I realized that I needed to understand my purpose to a much like greater degree of clarity. Otherwise, I'll just be wasting my time. And so going forward to next year, 2025, I hope that this video is a way of documenting like myself at this stage where I'm feeling like very lost with where I want to go in life. And hopefully next year by this time, I would have gained much more clarity. I would have actioned on this. I would have reflected much more. And hopefully I can see that comparison between the two times. So going to 2025, my mantra is definitely an hour of reflection saves a decade of regret.